Well, hello and welcome. This is Robert here in Granbury, Texas, joined with some amazing leaders here all over the country. We're terming this, it's a strategy session, and we're adding to it endless qualified leads. How many would like to have in your toolbox an arsenal of proven strategies where you never ever even have the remote thought that there's a finite number of people to talk to? You want an infinite number of people to talk to on an ongoing basis. Okay. And the reality is that there is an endless source of quality people that match our core values, that resonate and vibrate with us. And they're just a phone call, a hi, how are you? A message away. Yes. And people are praying for answers. So we want to welcome you guys, and we cover a proven strategy, not just a theoretical strategy. These are strategies that most all of these strategies are, if I'm teaching it, it's a strategy that I've used and I've enrolled 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And this strategy this morning, if I had to do a rough estimate, in this one strategy that I'm going to share this morning, if I look back over my journey in this beautiful industry, I would guesstimate that I've enrolled 300 people from this strategy over my career. And it's a couple decades worth, but again, it's a proven strategy. And when you hear the strategy, some of you an imposter may step in and say, well, and then you get a little nervous and remember, that's the edge. And if you're watching this and if you haven't had any teachings around the edge is when we're stepping into a place we haven't maybe been before, and it causes us to stretch and grow. Any other comments around the edge before we get into the strategy?
Just that it should be our compass.
It should be
scary, and we're not in danger of getting hit by a car or something. That's kind of the direction we should head. That's what I'm gathering.
Wow, almost a compass or magnet. Maybe it's a reminder, Heidi, that we're doing something right versus stepping back and saying, what am I doing here? I love it, guys. Okay, well, let me go ahead and do my screen share this morning. So feel free to keep your line open if the background noise isn't really pronounced or so forth. If not, please do mute. Then we'll be engaging throughout as well. So just be aware of that. Rich, since you're in the car, I'm going to mute you for a moment here, and feel free to unmute and engage with us as we move forward. So let me just tee this up and then get some initial thoughts, and then we'll cover the strategy this morning. So let me do a screen share and make sure my screen is working. Let's see here. All right, bear with me. Share screen. All right, guys, can you see my screen? I can't see a thumbs, or I don't have a visual on.
Yes, sorry. Yes, we can see it. We're good.
No problem. So, and again, nothing really that sexy about this strategy, but here it is: local networking. And I would say more than half our strategies are online based. And here's the reason why I wanted to cover this strategy this morning. Well, let me go right here. Let me go to the why first. To me, it's a staple for pretty much all of us. And how many of us want to build a business, not just across the country and the planet, but also in our hometown?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. It also keeps us sharp and relevant. And there was one thing I discovered and rediscovered through the years when I spend all my time refining my 3 or 4 online strategies, and I just stop my local networking. I guess, to be quite transparent, I don't flourish as well. And I'm not always growing as effectively, and maybe even maybe more rounded. I don't round out my skill set, if that makes sense. Okay. And what is the strategy? It's locating and building relationships with key individuals in our local area, our region, and we're going to cover a variety of groups that we can look at. And again, bear with us. One of our leaders on this line is Heidi. Heidi has a very rambunctious little one around the house. Is this an ideal strategy for someone like a mom like Heidi? I don't know. Are there some ways for Heidi to build some local networking? Heavens, yes. She could find, a sitter or sister, mother, father, one day a week, whatever it is. So whatever your home environment looks like, maybe you're an empty nester, maybe you're retired. So whatever your home environment is, it can be a little more conducive or not to local networking. I would just suggest to you that through the years, it keeps us all sharp and relevant. So any other thoughts around why and what around this particular strategy as we go into it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to transition Cora into like preschool. She really needs it. And just because I feel like I have been so limited and with schedule and stuff too, that, I mean, I'm grateful for online, but even just being at the event and stuff too, it's like to network and communicate and be comfortable around people and crowds and, just connecting in person just has so much more, I think, value, honestly, and power over connecting online, even if it's someone that the value of being face to face with someone, and connecting with them and understanding, what their health challenges are and sharing, what you've experienced. I mean, I'm super excited to not only kind of expand my circle of all these young moms who will probably have 10 years on them age-wise, but just, her getting involved in extracurricular activities and things like that to kind of expand my social circle, from what it's been.
No, I love that. So, and so Cora, within a couple of weeks, will be in preschool, sounds like. So, yeah, that's awesome. And that'll free up some of your time. So I love that, Heidi. And as Heidi mentioned too, it just takes one event like many of us have been to remind us of the power of being around, like-minded people. So let me just cover a bit of the mindset, as we always do on these strategies, and then we can cover the particulars and where to find the groups, etc. Number one, and hopefully we all can embrace this, is any strategy, whether it's online, face-to-face, whatever it is, when we travel, etc., it's all about building it's relational versus transactional. Again, transactional is we focus on the upfront sale, enrollment, customer builder, and then we often enough, and I'm raising both my hands sometimes, I often focus on the front end a whole lot more than I do on a week into it, a month into it, 6 months into it. And I'm always asking myself this point, I'm reminding myself, do I have a way to build those long-term relationships? Realize it takes time to build trust and rapport. And whether somebody enrolls with us the first day we talk with them, or whether it takes them 6 months or 2 years, realize part of it's the trust building process. Some people, if it's the right time, they will engage and enroll quickly, even total strangers, through the years. Again, looking back through 20, 25 years now, many people, when it was the right time and the trust was built quickly, I've had people, I met them within an hour, they had bought like a $2,000 pack. Okay, that's happened many times through the years, to give you an example. And when you first hear that, you may think, well, yeah, right. No, it's true. If it's the right time and we build the trust, that can happen. That being said, the majority of the people now that we meet, online, offline, whatever it is, we're talking 5, 6 connections, 10, 15, 16, and over time. Speaking of local networking, I'd love for you guys to pitch in here. Anybody who's done and been involved with some networking groups like we're talking about, I would love to hear from you. When did the needle move? My experience from BNI, Toastmasters, chamber groups, Rotary Club, et cetera, it was typically that magic 2.5 to 3 months into showing up, actively participating, actively saying yes. That's when the enrollments begin to come in. I've been in like 2 different primary, like a BNI. For those of you maybe who aren't aware, BNI is one of the most established professional networking groups on the planet, for example. And whether it's a BNI or other regional networking groups, I always saw a sharp spike in all my enrollments, again, 2.5 to 3 months into that group. Yes, I would get the right time and the right people enrolling fairly quickly, but man, I would get like 2 or 3 enrollments a week, every week in some of these groups once I was part of the group for 2.5 to 3 months. Comments around that? Does that surprise anybody?
No, I think it's super reasonable and just kind of building a baseline for, if you're showing up and you're consistently there and just kind of building that rapport, that takes time. It's not an overnight type of thing. And especially if you're on the receiving side, if you're, a potential, client, it's like it's just to practice empathy too and understand, like, if you're in someone's shoes, what would you want to receive? What kind of language or consistency or, attitude, would you want to see? It just takes time.
It does.
To build
It does, Heidi. And there's often enough, you're in a group and you'll see somebody get up and explain what they do, and that you immediately, either ourselves or somebody close to us, somebody's looking. That's the other way. That's the way to 3 times the speed of light. That's the way to exponentially increase the speed of trust, is we can reach out and share a referral and or even, be a customer or consumer ourselves. And as you're looking for initially the right group to engage with, be picky. There's enough networking opportunity out there within, say, 30 miles of most of our homes, unless you're way out in the boonies, is that most of us have within 30 miles of our home, 7, 8, 10, 15, 20 or more different possibilities, if not more. Okay. And I'm going to show you some examples in just a moment.
Thank you.
And obviously you're welcome. Always approach these groups with an open heart. Okay. All right. Where do we find these people? And all right, let me go back up again. Sorry. Okay. So again, if I look at this list, I've enrolled, just to be very transparent with everybody, I've enrolled a number of individuals from all these groups through the years. Okay. And let me start with the chamber groups. Chamber groups, a couple keys. And does any of this list kind of foreign language, or is everybody at least a little familiar with pretty much all these, or half this list kind of something you're hearing for the very first time? I'd love to get a feel for the group.
I recently learned about Alignable. I'm in as just a basic member, but I'm not quite sure how to engage with it.
Okay, fair enough. And I will, to be very, very candid here and transparent, Alignable is the one exception. When I say I've enrolled a number of people from all these groups, I haven't yet with Alignable. So it's kind of a new animal for me as well, but I put it here because I was just recently introduced to Alignable. Deb, I will say that the skills we learn, and I will say this too, the virtual alignable is a way to meet the people locally. Then we reach out and say, I see we have some overlapping values. Looks like we're on a similar mindset. Would you like to meet for coffee? So I just put alignable here because it's a way to do some personal networking, even outside this strategy that we're talking about this morning is an organized group that meets on the calendar either once a week or once a month on the calendar. So all I'm saying, Deb, is that maybe this is a unique animal here, although the other groups here are all places to find those groups that meet on a regular basis. Okay, so chamber, again, if you haven't been to a chamber breakfast or after hours or lunch, then why not? We all have to have lunch. Most of us enjoy some kind of breakfast, okay? So, and all you do is you grab your phone and you pull up maps, and there's your city sitting there. And then you simply expand your maps on your phone until you're looking at like a 30-mile radius of your house. And every little town within that 30-mile radius has a chamber of commerce. Okay. And then you can go to Google, like here's one called Glenrose. Let me use another example. Glenrose is so small, there's not a really active chamber. I've already been that route. Here's one called Weatherford, right? Weatherford is exactly 35 miles from my house. I can go to Google, type Weatherford, chamber, and there's two primary chambers. I was a member of the Weatherford Chamber for like 2 years running. I was part of a BNI group there, enrolled a number of people. So my point is, there's some whole strategies around when you first visit the chamber. Don't just look at the calendar and saying, here's that next breakfast before hours or lunch or after hours. Put it on our calendar, commit to it, and then I would suggest you call the chamber. Is there a registration? I'm a brand new guest. Is there something I need to be aware of? Do I need to show up early? Call the chamber. They will gladly talk with you because remember, their job is to build the chamber. So normally if it's a bigger chamber, they will say, hold a minute, let me get you with a new member. It's like new member, member enrollment person, or whatever their title is. They're like in charge of the acquiring new members. Okay. And then have the phone call. Better yet, go visit the chamber. And when you sit down with the person at the chamber, then they'll find out their story. Like I have two. Yesterday, I walked into the Granbury, hadn't been part of the Granbury Chamber in a little while, and now I'm rejoining it. I'm going to a chamber breakfast tomorrow morning, and the chamber general manager and the lady who's the main member coordinator, guess what they have on their desk and they're using today? They have a Z Trio and they have a shake. And so that's happening today. The chamber breakfast is tomorrow morning. Guess what? I'm going to have a built-in ready audience to say, what's your feedback? And go from there. And in the process, one reason why you go visit the chamber is when you sit down with these ladies, mostly ladies and some men, then don't just find out about the ups and outs and the ins and outs and the cost and everything else. Find out where some of the other chamber connected networking groups, even outside the chamber events, happen. And those are some groups to visit and discover their own story in the process. And ideally, you walk out of the chamber with a couple of referrals, meaning if Heidi was the member director that I was sitting there talking about joining the chamber with, Heidi, my business, my best people to talk with and chat with, they either own a salon or spa, or they're like a wellness practitioner. Heidi, I know you know pretty much most all the members here because you've been here for 4 years. Heidi, who stands out, or even who do you go to that has a salon? That's this people person that they're bubbly and they're positive. Who stands out? And typically Heidi will say, oh my goodness, Robert, you have got to meet Sally over at Sally's Hairstyles, and you got to meet Susie over trim your hair right, whatever. And then you walk out of the chamber. And then when you walk into those salons or spas, you have an instant level of trust. Sally, I'm walking in, I just left the chamber and I asked Susie who her favorite salon stylist or owner was. And guess what she told me? It was you. Heidi has a big smile on her face. You've already complimented her. And she'll say, well, yeah, how can I help you? You need a haircut or style? Actually, I'd love to schedule time with you to see how we can potentially collaborate. And yes, how do you approach your, what you do here? So potentially you set up an appointment. So anyway, I'm off on a tangent there. So there's so many strategies within all these that we could cover, but the chamber is a wonderful resource. Whether you join the chamber or not, visit 3 or 4 chamber offices and you can walk out of each office with 3 or 4 referrals if you position it that way. Okay, so meetup.com. I've been to many meetup groups and it's a way that I've met some, or I've found 1 or 2 independent networking groups. You can go to meetup.com and type in, if you type in wellness and health, guess what you're gonna find? People like us, all right? Probably 80% of the health-oriented groups on meetup.com that has health or nutrition or wellness are people like us. So it may not be your ideal groups, or it may, you never know. Or sometimes if you find somebody that used to do the health and wellness groups, not anymore, ideal prospect. But there's other groups like women or, outdoor enthusiasts, whatever your interest is, So meetup.com is a wonderful group to find. Alignable, we've already covered that a little bit. Great resource to set up virtual coffees or face-to-face meetings. If you haven't been to a Toastmasters club, if there's one organization, and I've enrolled a number of people from Toastmasters, not a whole lot. Toastmasters has served me primarily from communication skills, impromptu speaking, getting rid of the heebie-jeebies when it comes to being on the spot, and my hands shaking and my armpits sweating. Toastmasters will give you an exponentially more rapid growth process with your speaking and communicating ability. Toastmasters for me was huge. And when you approach it, any of these groups, remember, pursue excellence. When I looked at joining Toastmasters, I wanted to compete and stretch my communication, my speaking ability. What did I do? I found 2 Toastmasters chapters, joined them both, and I was going to a Toastmasters like Wednesday night and Thursday for lunch. And within 3 months, I was competing. I actually won 3 different competitions, and it stretched me so much, and I learned so much, and I heard from them in a beautiful, positive way, things I could work on, pausing, whatever. It helped me become a much better speaker and communicator. In the process, I met some awesome people. All right, BNI.com. BNI is for those, if you're on a tight budget, go on to something else. BNI is like a $600 a year buy-in. That's a good thing because all you get is people totally, if I'm gonna spend 600, if we're gonna spend $600 a year, are we gonna show up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. And depending on where they meet at, there's probably a monthly fee for that because it may include lunch or breakfast. But and can BNI be massively productive for you? Heavens, yes. It's huge. And again, BNI has a high level of standard of accountability, showing up, giving referrals, receiving referrals, one-to-ones, etc. Church groups, depending how big or small your church is, like we belong to a large, it's almost a mega church. So it's like 4,000, 5,000 members. And there is almost any kind of group you can imagine in there. And what a great way to socialize and meet with faith-based people. Independent groups, you can Google those. You can go to Google, type in women, business, networking. Even us men, Glenn and Rich and Scott, remember 85% of our business are women. So again, are just business networking, et cetera, et cetera. Civic clubs like, Rotary Lions Club. To be candid, I moved around and traveled so much through the years. I haven't been as active as some other individuals with the civic clubs, but it's a wonderful resource. Okay, I know we're out of time. Could we spend an extra 5 minutes here, guys, real quick?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. I'll just share these notes. We may have to do a part 2. Let's do that. Let's do a part 2 then. Let me just spend 3 minutes and then we'll do next Wednesday, finish this up because this is key here. While at the event mingle, when asked what we do, have a very short answer and then zip it. And then you want to have your answer to be shorter than their answer. If it's not, revisit how you're responding, because at these networking groups, the number one most common question is what?
What do you do?
Yeah,
What do you do for a living?
right here. So what do you do? Okay, here's some
Robert,
examples.
we can't see your screen. We see you. If you're showing us your screen.
Yeah, I'm showing my screen. So let me, that's right, I turned my screen share off, didn't I? Okay.
Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah,
All right.
there we go.
Okay, let's just finish this up and then we'll do a part 2 next week because I want to really cover this stuff. But this is the number one most common question. What do you do? Again, what's the key here?
Short.
Short and sweet and passionate. Well, I am a force for something good. And yeah. So I'm a force for good mentor. So Glenn, what do you do? So, and then listen and zip it. Even if Heidi, Glenn asked me, force for good, what does that mean? Well, I can't wait to share it with you. So again, what do you do again? So ideally, you're not being evasive. You're just being totally interested in them. Okay. And think of some outside the box answers. I'm a force for good mentor. I help people turn on their anti-aging engine in their body. I help people with 3 main things: energy, weight, inflammation. So how do you help people? Okay. And think outside the box, be interested. And when you're at these events, have some kind of simple way, because you're at a good event, you're going to have, 10, 15, 20 cards, business cards. And if you don't have some way of the people that you really connect with and you resonate with, and it's common energy and you're both engaged, dog ear the card. If I walk out of a networking group, ideally I'm going to have 4 or 5 business cards that have 2 corners turned dog-eared. And those are the cards that I immediately call the person to book a one-to-one with. Ideally, otherwise I come out of the business networking and I have 20 business cards and I have no idea who my top people are that I really connected with. Okay. So have some kind of way to do that. And to take it to the next level, the people that you really connect with, do a quick selfie. And then you could even go one step further and post that on your Facebook page. Guess who I just met today? Heidi. She's a realtor and she loves people. And my goodness, we hit on so many levels. So, and again, and then the other key to touch on right now before we go into part 2 next week is every networking group will typically have a little elevator section, elevator pitch, or if you want to call it your intro. And again, start your intro with a question. The key here is to have them stop scrolling in their mind or thinking about the kids. You want Heidi to stop thinking about Cora for a moment at home, what's she doing, how's she doing at preschool. And you want Heidi to say, what did he just say? Okay. And if we can accomplish that, then the other things we say are great. Although we can end our little intro with a way to get them to smile or chuckle. And at Zalevo, we soothe your gut to help you lose the butt.
Your butt.
And something like that is a way to get a chuckle, and it'll become memorable with the group. And we can brainstorm more of those in our next session. But so hopefully this was a nice intro for you with some ideals. And I would like to cover a little more of the ins and outs and things to do, things to be careful of, and what some landmines not to do. The call to action is to find some of these groups and put 2 or 3 on your schedule. And if it makes you nervous and you're wondering why I'm not ready for this, or I don't have that, then drop it, realize that's your imposter talking, and just to go visit some of these groups and be present, be real, and be mindful. And so my commitment to myself to kind of re-engage here, my own self, and to challenge all of us is to visit, say, 1 a week for the next 5 to 6 weeks. So let me stop my share here. So I'll be sharing those notes again in the, I'll post the video on the YouTube channel or team channel and put those notes in the comments.
I have a question.
was
Do you have
this-
a Zalavo business card?
Say again?
Do you have a Zalavo business card that you could share with us?
I agree. Bring that to the part 2 next week, and then we'll talk about some examples of what to put on the card, what not to, and then go from there. But I'll put a picture too of the in the description just to expedite maybe your journey. Yeah, I'll put an example of kind of one of the cards that I use, so we can go from there. Great question. Thanks, Scott.
Cool.
Other comments, thoughts? Did you get some value this morning?
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
Yes.
Super excited. Perfect
Okay.
timing for me.
Awesome, because we can all do so much online. We're all being reminded. I was on a call with Brandon even 2 weeks ago. Broadwater said, Robert, I was on a call with this guru in marketing and whatever. Brandon said, Robert, he reminded me, and I want to remind you, he said, belly to belly is still paramount. We got to get in front of people. It keeps us relevant, fresh, sharp, and we meet some of our best people because we can actually see them and feel them.
And if we're meeting them, it's kind of like it compounds, because then you're connected with them on social media too. So
Yeah,
there's only
'cause-
so many people you can meet and friend on social media, and then it's impersonal,
Yeah, because we go right from offline immediately. Think about at all these groups, we're then immediately take them online. Okay.
Right. Mhm.
And anybody we meet online, we immediately, ideally, we take them offline to meet for coffee or lunch. So it kind of goes hand in hand. All right, guys. Well, we've gone over a little bit, but I just appreciate you all so much. And I'm committed, just as you are, to this strategy because it can serve us all so well when we do it right with the right mindset. It's about relational versus transactional. Did everybody get that? That's
Yes.
okay. Well, love and light. Let's do our force for
Awesome.
good.
All
Unmute,
right.
please. 1, 2, 3.
Force
Force
for
for
good.
good.
I love
Thank you,
you guys.
Robert. Awesome training.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank
You
You
you.
guys